one of my favorite projects. That is the window that we did for the Lopati Chapel at Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, California. This was one of the very first large projects that we did for a synagogue very early in our career, and it's just always been one of my favorite windows. The theme for the window, which was suggested by Rabbi Schulweis, was Eitz Chaim Hi, that is, it is a tree of life. And so everything in this design, everything in these windows is a tree of life. As you walk into the room and you look at the windows for the first time, what you see is this vast array of leaves. And what you're looking at is a tree with its roots in the heavens and its leaves visible here on earth. That is the Kabbalistic or the mystical conception of the tree of life, as a tree with its roots in the heavens that connects the heavens and the earth. And in this tree, there are, of course, a very specific number of leaves. That is exactly 613 leaves for the 613 mitzvot in the Torah. One of my favorite symbols of the tree of life that's in these windows are the two strands of DNA, the two double helixes that twist up the sides of the composition and connect the top of the composition with the lower part of the composition. And these double helixes, imprinted on them, are the names of the 54 Torah portions, that is 27 on each side. And in fact, the Torah portion, since these windows belong in a setting that is used from both sides, that is, not only is it a sanctuary on the inside, it's actually a small sanctuary on the outside. And the Torahs are turned around and the ark opens from the outside also. And so the windows are also visible for the outside. And what this has to do with the two double helixes is that the names of the Torah portions are painted and sandblasted onto the strands of the DNA in such a way that half of them face to the inside and half of them face to the outside. So the composition of this DNA strand doesn't look backwards from either side. And it's really one of my favorite features of these windows. At the top of this composition, there's a pair of ladders that bend toward a Torah that sits at the very pinnacle of the composition. And these ladders are representative of a type of tree of life also, in that there's only one mention of a ladder in all the Torah, and that is Jacob's ladder, which was the ladder which connected the heavens and the earth, and therefore that ladder became a symbol of Torah. And on these particular ladders, we've engraved, on the runners of these ladders, we've engraved the entire text of Jacob's dream, just to make the connection between these magical ladders and the ladders in his dream much more concrete. And another part of these ladders that I really love so much is that these ladders are bending toward this Torah that's at the very center and very top of the composition. And as the ladders approach and get very close to the Torah, you can see that they actually burst into flower. That is, they blossom into almond blossoms. It's making a statement that the power of life that's in the Torah is so strong that it would even bring an inanimate object to life. And in fact, in different stories that are in the Torah, that's exactly what happened. Another feature of the stained glass windows we made for the Lopati Chapel that I really like are the pair of columns that stand beside the ark. These two columns are meant to recall the two columns that stood before the first temple, the columns that were called Joachim and Boaz. And these two columns also are meant to represent like a pair of trees of life. That is, they are trees, and you can see that by the palm fronds that are at the top of them. But more importantly, they're like symbolic trees in that they're rendered as if they are made up of all the materials that God requests of the Israelites at Sinai to build the original tabernacle. The gold, silver, and copper, the acacia wood and the lapis lazuli, the purple and crimson yarns, and the red dyed skins. And all of these things are represented on these two columns. In the bottom right and left-hand corners of our composition, there are two panels that are rendered as a random array of Hebrew letters that we call tohu vavohu. And tohu vavohu is the term taken from the very first passage of the Torah that describes the pre-creation state of the universe. It's often translated as chaos. And the rabbis created a midrash about that that's very famous, and it goes something like this, that if God used speech to create the universe, that is, God said, "Let there be light," for instance, then what must have existed before God began to create were the words that God used and the letters that made up those words. So Michelle and I made a visual midrash out of that, and we created this idea of displaying a random and chaotic array of Hebrew letters to represent not only the pre-creation state of the universe, but to represent the raw material from which the universe is created. And we've placed it down at the bottom corners of our composition because it's like the soil from which our creation has sprung. And this particular random array of Hebrew letters is actually all the letters that make up the words of the very first section of Genesis. And if you look very closely, you can see those words just coming into formation. Another feature of the composition in the Lopati Chapel at VBS are the two menorahs that stand atop the columns which flank the arcs. These menorahs are meant to be trees of life also, and if you look at them closely, you'll see that they have leaves and blossoms like a tree, but they have specific type of blossoms. That is, they have almond blossoms, because God requests of the Israelites at Sinai that the original menorah be designed on the basis of an almond blossom. Another feature on these two menorahs are the configuration of 10 jewels into the shape of the 10 sefirot, which is known as the Kabbalistic tree of life. So, therefore, in this motif of the menorahs are found two other examples of the tree of life. The ark doors on the interior of the ark in the Lopati Chapel at VBS are a pair of 3/4-inch clear glass panels that are deep etched, that is, they're deep carve etched, with the letters of the 10 Commandments rendered in Torah script. And each one of the commandments is illustrated by one of the 10 biblical fruits that grows in the land of Israel. And they're illustrated by a process of successive depth blasting on this very thick piece of glass. And they are lit from the lighting sources for these two windows are above and very close to the plane of the glass itself. And there's two dark curtains, a second parochet, that are pulled behind these glass doors to create a very dark backdrop, which is the best way to view this kind of etched glass. And when the lights are on, lighting up the doors, and the second parochet is closed behind these etched glass doors, it appears as if the 10 Commandments are just floating in space in front of the Torahs. And it makes a very beautiful installation and a very beautiful set of ark doors.